You may know that recently I've released a concept teaser for my animated project Heroes of Bronze. What you might not know is that for it, I've recreated a lot of real-world gear by my favorite historical reenactors. One of them is Adam Godfrey, who even makes an appearance in the teaser. So in this video, let me show you how I've recreated his wonderful archaic armor set, and later Adam even makes an appearance to talk about it. I have a lot of books about ancient Greece. They range from my favorite fiction to non-fiction history books, image books, books I bought in museums, and also to magazines. From these I really like to draw my inspiration for the various armors and gear of ancient Greco-Persian warriors. However, a few of these hold a special place in my heart, especially a few of the Osprey publishing books from Nicholas Secunda with illustrations from the legendary Angus MacBride. I always wanted to remake some of these awesome ancient warriors I often marveled at in these pictures. The second, and in this case even more impactful source of inspiration, was the amazing armor kit by Adam Godfrey. He's definitely one of my favorite reenactors out there, one who also likes to spread knowledge about ancient Greece on his own YouTube channel. And so, one day, Adam and I had a call and he was kind enough to send me reference photos for this amazing panoply. By the way, as you probably noticed, for this video I'm doing something new. With the constant flood of AI tools, I found myself more and more drifting towards things that are more tangible and real. It led me to start making these handwritten notebooks, recapping the work on my previous projects. For as long as I can remember, I've been going from video to video, from finished short to finished short, never actually stopping to appreciate the work I've done. And this work usually only exists digitally. So inspired by the great David James Armsby from the amazing Dinosauria project, I started putting together these notebooks with hand-drawn sketches and descriptions in them. And I'm enjoying it immensely, so these will probably make a regular occurrence in my future videos. But now, let me have Adam talk about his magnificent armor in more detail.
Hey Martin, and hello everyone else. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the video. I have been a massive fan of Heroes of Bronze since it first came out, and I have had the privilege of being able to get some insider information from Martin, but also give him a little bit of historical assistance, if you will, as well. One of those ways is actually providing references of my own panoply, my own armor, for him to essentially put into the film, which is something that I find particularly awesome. Just to help with this project anyways, but then to see a little animated version of me on the screen, really freaking cool. My armor is a style which is not commonly associated with the ancient Greeks. I've been building this panoply for close to 5 years, it's been a long project, and it encompasses a style of armor which is rare to say the least, and especially in the common worldview in the modern day of ancient Greek warriors. What do I mean by that? My armor encompasses an interesting time period of what we typically refer to as the transitional period, sort of a blurry bridge between the archaic into the classical. This is a period which sees some unique styles of warfare, and with it some very unique styles of armor, which is essentially full plate. So not only do I have a helmet, a cuirass and greaves, I also have arm armor and thigh armor and foot armor. This is a really cool and unique style of armor, again basically full plate 2000 years before we often think of the emergence of full plate, but in the hoplite context. Now this style of armor would have been very rare in period, it would have been worn by the highest tiers of society. A majority of your warriors would not be adorned in this style of armor. Dating this can be sometimes difficult when you're working with sort of scraps of archaeological finds. In my case this isn't as difficult, as my entire panoply is built off of one Laconian bronze figurine. He roughly dates to 550 to 525 BC, which is notably before the setting of Martin's Heroes of Bronze. However, these elements of armor seem to linger into the early classical as well. Of course, style and warfare evolution isn't a dramatic cut-off, it blends and blurs and fades all into each other. So roughly we're talking about a 6th century style of armor, but would have still been used into the early 5th century as well, most likely. And in this particular case, it is armor that was worn by, likely, a Spartan warrior. Hoplites are often given the name the Men of Bronze, and this really does make you a man of bronze. It's a style of armament which I found particularly fascinating, which is why I dived into it, and I'm so happy to see this represented in Martin's project. Now, as I said, the armour is made of bronze. Mine is a mixture. Ancient metals are almost impossible to replicate anyways. My panoply is a mixture between modern brass, tombac, and commercial bronze. Most modern bronze is actually too dark compared to ancient bronze, and modern brass is slightly too bright. We often get this notion that ancient bronze is sort of a goldy bronze. Overall though, the material only really affects the colour in this case, not really the weight, which is really the most important thing. Hoplite armour in particular is fascinating because it is notoriously light, thin, close-fitting. That whole entire panoply that you see, the full archaic set, weighs just under 30 pounds. And that's not like wearing a 30-pound backpack. That is a well-fitted, sculpted armour that contorts to the contours of the body, rests in ergonomically sound areas, that spreads the weight very evenly over my body. I think that that's quite considerably lighter than most people think when they think of full plate armour. So this style of armour, which is again awesome to really see represented in Martin's work, would likely be on the tail end of use by the time of the Battle of Thermopylae and Plataea, but you probably still saw a decent number of these pieces of armour still being used. I mean, Leonidas, for example, was 60 years old at the Battle of Thermopylae. Do you think that his armour would have represented the pinnacle of style at 480 BC? Or maybe 20 or 30 years before that? One of my favourite aspects to Martin's work is how he has managed to capture, in his own style, real historical armour variations, individuality within these hoplite ranks, varying styles of armour all being used together. You know, you've got transitional cuirasses, bell cuirasses, Corinthian helmets, Chalcidian helmets, Illyrian helmets. It really captures the essence of what I think hoplite armies should look like. And I'm incredibly grateful that my panoply could have also lended a hand to Martin's inspiration for this project.
And so, I head out to recreate Adam's gear in Blender. If you've seen my tutorials, you probably already know that I use Character Creator package for the base meshes of my characters. I adjust the model to my liking with these super useful hands-on sliders, shaping the character to have the body and face I'm after, and then I use the CC add-on to import it into Blender, where it's really simple to use the same add-on to generate a rig for the character. The model itself requires a few manual adjustments, and I usually make my own hair and beard models for it using polygonal modeling. I also go in, remove all the CC materials and add my stylized shaders instead, while also painting some manually placed texture lines and grease pencil strokes on top. If you want to know more, you can have a look at my other videos on this channel, or subscribe to my Patreon, where I put my exclusive tutorials on this topic. At this stage, I only have the character with some simple garments, and now the actual fun part starts, recreating the armor itself. I put together sketches of the models I wanted to make, and since I already had the reference photos, these were totally unnecessary, but they were so much fun to draw, you know, on paper, in real life. And when it comes to this historical gear, I still like to create all the pieces myself, relying on polygonal modeling. I just find it the most reliable method, one that creates the fewest problems later down the road. With a clear idea in mind of what I want to create, I set about shaping the helmet, the cuirass, the arm and the greaves, and also these super cool ancient sabatons. When these basic low poly models were done, I started working on small pieces of geometry to capture the details. With my stylized shaders thrown on top, it started to look good, but it wouldn't really be complete without the use of grease pencil. With it, I like to go around drawing little lines and scratches, outlining chosen edges, and then adding stitching. The combination of these automated shaders and hand-drawn details is a great way to achieve stylized looking models fairly quickly. And then, many hours later, I was finally able to put these models onto the character. Since these are non-deformable armor pieces, meaning they don't really need to bend and stretch when the character starts moving, a simple parenting operation was enough. You pick the controller that you want to attach the armor piece to and parent it. and then adding an animation onto the armature, I was done with putting Adam onto the ancient Greek battlefield. But he was kinda small in the shot. The wonderful thing about these models is that once they're finished, they can be used and reused on other models. And in fact, I decided to do so. I put a lot of work into the model and I wanted to put it somewhere where it will be seen. So I put it into the ending shot of the teaser with this version of my King Leonidas character. And it is plausible that Leonidas would wear this armor. The dating more or less fits. Later, however, Leonidas' model got upgraded a bit. And after some research, I decided to, for example, shave his mustache, because that's apparently what the Spartan elite did back in ancient Greece. In the end, this further experimentation resulted in this shot, which I'm super proud of. And my project ended up with a great addition to its ancient Greek digital armor library, which I can now use and reuse across various shots. So thank you, Adam, for your inspiration and all the references you provided. And the rest of you, go watch Adam's channel if you're interested in ancient history and especially the Greco-Persian Wars. And with that, stay creative, my friends. Martin out.